A very good afternoon to dear students. Today we will discuss on the topic research hypothesis, steps for the formulation, purpose and types. This is one of the most prominent topic to understand when you are pursuing your research to prepare hypothesis. What are the different steps for the formulation of the hypothesis? What is the purpose behind the formulation and what are the different types of the hypothesis? So the topic for today's lecture is research hypothesis, steps for formulation, purpose and types. We will be covering in this lecture meaning of research, the importance of research, what are the contemporary trends in the socio-legal research, review of literature, the objectives and the purpose, the meaning of research problem and its identification, meaning of the hypothesis, its functions, characteristics, sources, and different types. Now, we will start our lecture with a quotation. Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. See, the in-depth meaning of this definition itself clears the whole understanding about the concept. Research is to see what everybody else has seen. Everybody else has seen. Everyone has seen the same thing. But the way you think about that distinguishes your research. That distinguishment is coming from your thought process. So what is research? Research always generates from the inquisitive mind. See, if you are always searching the answers for your questions, you are in the process of research. This world is completely filled with the unanswered questions, unsolved problems. There were problems, there are problems, and there will always remain some of the problems. And to find out the solutions for those problems with the existing available sources, resources, that is the purpose behind the research. The problem might have not just remained the same as it was earlier. It might have changed its face, it might have changed its shape, but the problem is still existing. So the research helps in finding out the solutions for the contemporary problems with the available resources, how we should work in the area. So research is an inseparable part of the human knowledge. Since the inception of the civilization, the human brain has always been active in the area of research. We have always been very inquisitive towards our surrounding, and that inquisitiveness leads to the research. So research in any stream of education is the gathering of information for ascertaining and assumptions or verifying some hypothesis. Research is an inquiry for the verification of the fresh theory or supplementing the prevailing theories by new knowledge. The availability of the theories is the same, but how we look at the problems, how we look for the solution, that changes with the passage of time. That depends upon the different situation, that depends upon circumstances, how they vary. So like rivers acquired, human knowledge does not flow backward. So research is a continuous process. Research is something which keeps on going and going. What is the meaning of research? The word research is derived from the French word research. Meaning of research or seek again. It means the intensive research with a view to become certain or to investigate thoroughly. If you simply look in the configuration of this word research, and search, which means to search again or to search for the new facts or modify the older ones in any branch of knowledge. So the search is something to look for which is already existing. Research is the human activity based on the intellectual application in the investigation of some matters. In the broadest sense, the meaning of research includes the gathering of literature, data, information, materials, and facts for the advancement of the knowledge. Now, if we talk about the definition, we will discuss few definitions by different writers. The Webster's International Dictionary proposes a very inclusive definition of research as a careful, critical inquiry or examination in seeking facts or principles. Diligent investigation in order to ascertain something. This is one of the very simplest definitions. Research is a careful and critical inquiry. Careful, you have to be very careful while you are doing your research, and at the same time you have to be very critical about whatever you are inquiring or whatever you are examining. Examining what? Examining the facts or the principles. Their diligent investigations are required, and those diligent investigations leads to the research. P.V. Young defines research as, we may define social research as the systematic method of discovering new facts or the verifying old facts, their sequence, their interrelationships, causal explanations, and the natural law which governs them. There are other definitions also. According to John Best, research is a more systematic activity directed towards discovery and the development of an organized body of knowledge. See, when we see the definition of research, this definition itself leads to the various aspects involved in the research. When we talk about research, according to this definition, when we talk about the research, research is a systematic activity. We are not supposed to look around here and there, something we will get into it. No, it is a systematic activity. We must have some idea what we are looking for, and that idea paves way for creation of your, for formulation of your hypothesis. What we are thinking about, that should lead to some kind of discovery or the development. That is the purpose of research. According to Lundberg, research is the method sufficiently objective and systematic to make possible classifications, generalization, and the verification of data observed. Like as per Mayura Mathur, research is a thorough and extensive study of the subject clothed in an enhanced presentation with corrections to the chosen topic. It is the most exhaustive academic written thesis or dissertation. It presents the serious and analytical bent for the academics. Now, what is the importance of research? An inquisitive mind is the beginning of the research. As we have opened our lecture with the words, the inquisitiveness is the key. If you are looking for the answers around you, then you are a researcher. So research is as old as the academic consciousness of the human mind. From the day we started understanding the things, we have always been very inquisitive. We see the example of a child. Child is always very inquisitive. They ask so many questions. They have, because they don't have any preconceived ideas about anything. So they are very much open to learn the different perspectives. Different people used to tell them the different things from their point of view, and the child tries to grab all that. Okay, so one must be that inquisitive to understand about the surrounding, to understand, to formulate the path for the research. So the research requires the clear articulation of the goals. Research requires a specific plan of procedure. In simple words, research is an original contribution to the existing available knowledge for the advancement of the living of mankind. So research plays two prominent roles. Number one, it contributes to the enlightenment of the knowledge, and it helps to solve many complex problems of the society. Research is not about only enhancing your personality, only enhancing about your knowledge. When you are working on some particular topic, you are also helping in solving the complex problems of the society. This is the job of the researcher, to smoothen the lives of the other human beings by their academics. So what are the contemporary trends in the socio-legal research? During the last few years, legal research has undergone a tremendous change on the path of the better understanding of the role of law in the society. A new spirit and zeal has taken place in the legal research, that is the spirit of the innovation and exploration. In recent times, we have seen that the researchers are focusing more or more on the empirical studies. They want to interact with the people. They want to know about the grassroots realities and how those problems can be sorted out. So in modern times, when we look at the legal research, two things are very important. Number one, it takes the stock of the changed economics, political, social, and cultural institutions, and it's substitute inductive reasoning for deductive one to make the research more meaningful and acceptable academic contribution. So the recent upsurge in the legal research is the movement towards the interdisciplinary research. Some of the aspects of the intersectional research may be law and sociology, law and economics, law and political science. These are the examples. So what is the review of literature? As the name suggests, review of literature, whatever literature you have gone through. When you have found out some problem, you must have found that problem by undergoing the rigorous review of literature. So research is the creative process and it requires the consistency to delve into the literature. A literature review is a survey and the discussion of the literature in a given area of study. It is a concise overview of what has been studied, argued, established about the topic. Now, research is a creative process and it requires the consistency. Fine. Objectives of literature review. Number one, it surveys the literature in the chosen area of study. It synthesizes the information in that literature into a summary. It critically analyzes the information gathered by identifying the gaps in the current knowledge, by showing the limitations of the theories and the point of views, and by formulating area for the further research and reviewing area of controversy. And the last one is it presents the literature in an organized way. So there are 4 steps. Number one, the survey. Second is the synthesis of the information that you have gathered by that survey. Third is the critical analysis of whatever you have, whatever knowledge you have gathered through your survey and by synthesizing that survey. Last is how you present whatever you have surveyed, synthesized, and critically analyzed out of your review of literature. Now, what is the importance of having this review of literature? It creates a rapport with the reader. When you present your work to someone and when that person reads that person must have that rapport with that understanding with the topic. Second, it helps to avoid the incidental plagiarisms. Third is it sharpens your research focus. Plagiarism is one of the most concerned area in the research nowadays in all of the disciplines. Now, what is the research problem? A research problem is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in the scholarly literature, in theory, or in practice that points to the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. In simple words, a research problem can be simply defined as a statement that identifies the problem or situation to be studied. Before starting your research, you just go through so much review of literature, and after reviewing that literature you find out some problem, and that problem actually paves way for your further research. Now, how the identification of research problem is to be done? Review of literature is basically a step of corroboration of opinions with earlier observation propounded by the researcher in the previous studies on the same subject. It is mandatorily a formal step to be followed in every research. What is the new problem you have found when so many researchers have already worked in the area? That research problem will distinguish your research from the other researches which have already been conducted in the same area of knowledge. Now, here comes the most important topic, that is the hypothesis. A hypothesis is a tentative assumption drawn from the knowledge and theory which is used as a guide in the investigation of other facts and theories that are yet unknown. It is a guess, supposition, or a tentative inference as to the existence of some facts, condition, or relationship relative to some phenomena, which serves to explain such facts as already are unknown to exist in a given area of research and to guide the search for the new truth. So, hypothesis is made of two words, hypo and thesis. Hyper means less than, and when we read the word hypothesis, it gives the meaning less certain than a thesis. Less certain than a thesis. We have just drawn the idea that hypothesis is met only after your research is complete. That hypothesis may be absolutely rejected. At the end of the research, the establishment would be certain. Okay, so it is a presumptive statement. It is a presumption. It is not the conclusion. Conclusion will be drawn after the research is complete. So it is the presumptive statement of a proposition or a reasonable guess based upon the available evidence which the researcher seeks to prove through the study. The hypothesis is precisely designed as a tentative or a working proposition suggested as a solution to the problem. Suggested as a solution to the problem. Whether it is actually a solution or not, it will be settled only after when the research is complete. So a hypothesis states what we are looking for. A hypothesis looks forward. It is a proposition which can be put to test to determine its validity. It may prove to be correct or incorrect. Hypothesis gives a point of inquiry. In the absence of hypothesis, the researcher is like a sailor on the wide sea without compass or radar. So we need to draw the hypothesis to reach a logical end of our research. Hypothesis helps in deciding the direction in which to proceed. It is the starting point of the research. If you have formulated your hypothesis very accurately, then the research is going to be very easy and very interesting for the researcher. And if the hypotheses are a bit complicated and they are not that clear in your perception, in your own idea, then it will be very difficult for the researcher to reach that point. So what are the definitions of the hypothesis? There are certain definitions have been given. According to Kallinger, a hypothesis is a conjectural statement of the relationship between two or more variables. Yes, it is the conjectural statement, two or more variables के बीच में. According to Blackstone and Champion, hypothesis is a tentative statement about something, the validity of which is usually unknown. The validity is established only after the completion of the research. According to Grinnell and Sothers, a hypothesis is written in such a way that it can be proven or disproven by valid and reliable data. It is in order to obtain these data that we perform our study. By analyzing the above definitions, we may say that the hypothesis has the following characteristics. Number one, it is a tentative proposition. It is not the conclusion of the research. It is the tentative proposition. Its validity is unknown. That validity is to be established only with the process of research. And in most cases, it specifies the relationship between two or more variables. Now, what are the functions of the hypothesis? Why we formulate our hypothesis? Why do we need to have the hypothesis for the research? While some researchers believe that to conduct a study, hypothesis is a prerequisite, and few believe that hypothesis is not an essential requirement. The hypothesis is important in terms of bringing clarity to the research problem. Number one, The formulation of a hypothesis provides a study with the focus. It tells what specific aspects of the research problems to investigate. Second, a hypothesis tells that what data to collect and what not to collect, thereby providing the focus. Why to get involved in the collection of the unnecessary data? This segregation is possible only with the help of the hypothesis, in which direction we should move forward. As it provides us focus, the construction of a hypothesis enhances the objectivity of the study. Last, a hypothesis may enable to add the formulation of the theory, enables to specifically conclude what is true and what is false. What are the characteristics of the usual hypothesis, usable hypothesis? Hypothesis is an explanation that needs to be established before it can be examined. A good hypothesis is one which is testable and must be based directly on existing data. It might even be expected to predict or anticipate the previously unknown data. There are certain considerable characteristics to construct a useful or workable hypothesis. Number one, it must be conceptually clear. It should be simple and specific. It should be related to the body of knowledge. It should be capable of verification. At last, it is the hypothesis that must be verified. It should be testable within a reasonable time. You have been given with a stipulated time. You don't have the all time to complete your research. Endless time nahi hai. So you have to complete your research within a reasonable time. It should be operationalizable. It should be refutable. It is not at all necessary that what hypothesis we have created that should remain as it is. At last, at the time of the conclusion of the research, that hypothesis may be incorrect one. What are the sources of hypothesis? Number one, there are 8 sources. The list is not exhaustive. There may be some other. Culture, folk wisdom, current beliefs and practices. Second, scientific theories. Third is personal experience. Fourth is imagination, thinking and intuition. Fifth is discussion and observation. Six is previous studies. 7, analogy. 8 is your survey, policies, decisions, public opinion, previous researches. The kind of pilot study we conduct for our empirical research that also paves way for the formulation of your hypothesis. What are the problems we face in formulating the hypothesis? Number one, absence of the clear theoretical framework. Second is lack of ability to utilize the theoretical framework logically. And the last is failure to be acquainted with the available research techniques so as to be able to phrase the hypothesis properly. We need to remain updated with the upcoming techniques we used in the research. What are the stages of formulating the hypothesis? There are 4 stages. Number one, first the researcher must observe the phenomena. Observance of phenomena is a must. Second, researcher should identify the reflection that is the cause and consequence of that phenomena. Third is, researcher should logically deduct the fact relating to the phenomena. And last is, researcher should keep it ready for the verification with empirical situation. Whatever phenomena you had observed, that must be established with the empirical research. Now, what are the different types of hypothesis? Number one is the working hypothesis. It is the preliminary assumption of the researcher about the research topic when sufficient information is not available to establish a hypothesis. Second is relational hypothesis. These explain how and why things are going on. This is the relational happenings between different phenomena to be established. Third is the statistical hypothesis. It is the statement about the statistical population. The things are reduced to the numerical quantities through which we establish our hypothesis. Next is the null hypothesis. This means that there is a zero or no relationship It is called the null hypothesis because it is an empty hypothesis, which is not considered to be as a good hypothesis. Descriptive hypothesis, this describes the given on account of the various characteristics of the objectives by closely observing them. For example, country A, B, C represents the creativity and motivation of its people. Okay, so the third one is the last one is the research hypothesis. It is a researcher's proposition about some social fact without reference to its particular alignments. Okay. Next is, what are the testings of the hypothesis? The process of testing a hypothesis is, number one, there are three phases. Number one, formulating assumptions. Second, collection of the required data. And third is analyze that data to draw the conclusions about the assumptions, either true or false. Next is important thing to understand, what are the errors in testing the hypothesis. A hypothesis is an assumption that may prove to be either correct or incorrect. Yeah, either it will be correct or incorrect. There will be no midway for this hypothesis. So it is possible to arrive at an incorrect conclusion about a hypothesis for various reasons. Number one, the study design selected is faulty. Second, the sampling procedure adopted may be faulty. Third, the method of data collection is faulty. Fourth, the analysis is wrongly done. Fifth, the statistical procedure applied are inappropriate. And the last one is the conclusion drawn are incorrect. Neither your study design is wrong, neither your sampling procedure nor your data collection. It is the conclusions that you have drawn out of these, only these are wrong. So these may be the errors in testing a hypothesis. Now, at last, we may conclude hypothesis is an important element in the social legal research. It is the pivotal of research. A hypothesis provides the basis of our investigation and ensures the proper direction in which the study should proceed. It can be concluded that the hypothesis forms the starting point of investigation, which makes the observation and the experiments to be conducted by the researchers possible. With this, I conclude my lecture on the hypothesis. Thank you so much. I wish you an enriching learning experience. Thank you, everyone.